And we're back. It's time for round 3 of the OCM Team Trios here at Game Castle in Ankeny.
Beauty.
In the booth, it's me, Blake. I'm here with Stefan, and we're being joined by the third dad. It's Jeremiah. Say hi.
Hello. You're going to have to move in closer and also, hang on, we're going to get real comfy.
It's maybe the first time.
No, we kiss a lot.
For round 3, we have back in the feature match area Tom playing 4-color Living End. You just saw him last round.
Yeah, dude smoked. Quick.
Yeah, again, Demir Ring, the blue-black control deck.
Yeah.
A pretty good matchup for Living End, I think.
Sort of
the Demir deck really just looking to exchange 1-for-1, and Living End looking to do the opposite, putting several permanents in play with just one spell. So,
several boys.
At the bottom of the screen, we have one of your favorite decks, Stefan.
Yes.
Joe playing Amulet Titan.
This is Joe. I would call our resident Titan expert.
I agree. Yes,
He's very good at the deck. He's also wearing a sweet Chrono Trigger sweater that has the frog on it from Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, one of my favorite. Well, so my name being Jeremiah, I have to love the frog characters.
You do love the bullfrog?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
Jeremiah being a bullfrog?
Chrono Trigger, also one of my favorite games
Yes.
of all time.
Correct. I'm glad that we're both on the same page there with Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I actually occasionally steal my kid's Switch just to play the old Chrono Trigger on the Switch. Yeah.
Is it like the highest rated game from the 90s, like, period, that entire decade?
I think it's still Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it's probably the best, like, turn-based RPG.
Oh,
of the 90s
easily.
for sure.
Heck yeah.
And it's not really turn-based. It's like an active turn-based system. It's pretty sick.
Is it like Final Fantasy 13?
Kind of.
Similar?
And there's there's different rules based on where your enemies are in, like, physical space when you're doing battles.
So distance matters.
Distance, positioning, like there's the X slash.
Okay, that's enough about Chrono Trigger. Let's talk about this game.
A turn 1 amulet.
Tom has started things off with a Misty Rainforest, and on Joe's turn, it's an Urza Saga, and the namesake card of the deck, Amulet of Vigor.
So vigorous.
What do we think about spelunking?
The new vigor?
It
just makes
it's
not a
slightly different.
Yeah, it's a replacement effect.
Slightly different, but
how much mana is it?
Do you think it's 3 mana?
Okay.
3 mana enchantment, so if a land would enter tapped, it enters untapped instead. So, like you said, it's not a trigger.
No.
As opposed to Amulet of Vigor.
It would actually turn off Vigor Amulet, right?
I don't know how those two cards interact together.
It would enter untapped, and the Amulet would not have a trigger then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think
It seems like it's just probably actively bad.
No, I agree. But also because the cheeky part about Amulet is that when they have these cards like that let them play extra lands or the Karoo lands, getting multiple triggers from your amulets lets you make egregious amounts of mana with just one land.
Yeah. 6 mana, traditionally the threshold for doing busted stuff.
Right, and with with 2 copies of Amulet and a Karoo land, there's your 6 mana.
Did you guys ever mess around with Titan when Summer Bloom was
legal?
No. The win condition was a little different back then because they killed you with Hive Mind.
Oh my god!
Sometimes, yeah.
It was like the. It was like
also just lethally attack with a prime time.
Yeah.
With the
right. They still had the still had the Slayer Stronghold line with prime time, but the Hive Minds were like their 5 through 8 copies of Titan.
How often does Joe on Amulet Titan? Okay, so here we've got a Karoo land coming down. How often does he keep an opener with like 2 lands in it and an amulet? Like,
I think if you have the amulet and a way to cast it, you do.
Okay,
so this is Zeus Lost but Seeking is going to give him 2 additional land drops. With the amulet in play, that's 4 mana.
Yeah. And if he can...
Looks like it's just going to be a Verdant Catacombs.
A Verde, which is a French for green catacombs.
Whatever you say. Temple of Garden interplay tapped, and Amulet will, of course, untap it. Here's a mana. Is it going to be an Arboreal Grazer? It is.
It's Arboreal Grazer.
It's going to come into play, let him play another land. So,
oh my god.
4 total lands played this turn. It's a second copy of Urza Saga. Weirdly, not legendary.
No, that's strange, huh?
And we'll pass back over to Tom. Tom's going to do some cycling.
It is
Curator of Mysteries going to get cycled.
Oh my god. It is a saga, therefore historic. Urza's Saga, amazingly a saga.
And a Botanical Sanctum.
We've reached 3 mana.
Yep. So he does have the Oliphant and
Curator.
the Curator in the graveyard.
Oh, we're
going to
just
start
about
things
there.
off with a Grief. That's going to reveal a Titan, and as the only payoff card in his hand, the other card is the Gruul Turf. So
Yeah, he was going to have a big turn next turn.
Grief is going to get to take this Titan away.
Yeah. That's rough for Joe.
Yeah, with the Amulet plus 1, 2, 3, the Saga will find a second copy of Amulet. I believe that Primeval Titan is lethal.
Yes.
I don't exactly know the Titan math, but 2 Amulets of Vigor plus Titan, I believe, is just lethal.
Yeah, because you could get Slayer's Stronghold.
Yeah, Boros Garrison.
Yep.
This is a pretty awkward situation, though. I don't think Tom wants this prime
Oh,
time.
right.
No,
graveyard.
he doesn't, because
That's right.
it's gonna come
Yeah.
back.
He
and
has to take it. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he may kill himself if he living ends here.
Do they have? You said that you saw Tom's deck list after the last
did.
round. Does he have Endurance in his main deck?
No, it's in the sideboard.
Interesting.
Only in the board.
So he doesn't have a way to get rid of this Primeval.
Correct. Yeah, sort of rough.
Interesting.
He could board it in, but like I don't know how.
Well,
much
what
it's
he's going to
doing.
need to do, I believe, is have a Violent Outburst.
Yeah.
So
I have
that-
those all
So
the
he
gets
time?
the first attack.
Yeah, so that he gets to attack before the Titan does the worst of its damage.
Still going to be rough because it gets those triggers on ETB.
It does, but
Yeah.
Joe is more likely to search out things that give him a Teleria West line.
Oh, sure.
Where he's able to transmute for something that's going to be
he can-
potentially game winning.
yeah.
Like he could transmute for a second copy of Titan in the Summoner's Pact.
Yep, because Summoner's Pact is 0 mana. Because he can Titan, get a Karoo land, a Teleria
Right,
West.
untap, float mana, and then you can only transmute at sorcery speed.
Correct.
So no, that wouldn't work.
No, but he could transmute it later. Like he just won't be able to
Looks
transmute
like
it
we're
on
going
that
to
turn.
construct mode here.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Like we're kind of forcing Tom to have it, right? This is the beautiful thing about
Not even force him to have it. It's likely that he has it. Force him to use it.
Yeah, that's exactly
He's going to have to use it as a wrath.
this is.
When I think maybe Tom sort of saw the writing on the wall. He was 1 mana short of the prime time the turn before.
Oh, yeah.
He knew he had the bounce land in hand, and
This is the first time I've ever seen this matchup, and it's kind of wild. Like these are two prolific
I can't
decks.
remember if we've ever had this matchup on camera, but I seem to recall Living In just has some real downside some real downside when your opponent has these insane creatures with enters the battlefield abilities.
Yeah.
It's like, what I was saying, the endurance is in the sideboard. I kind of wonder if maybe it wouldn't be okay in the main deck just to try to prevent some of these situations, but what do I know? Grief, Curator of Mysteries, and Oliphant going to come back alongside that Primeval Titan.
Now we have a Grief trigger and a Titan trigger. Grief's going to go on the stack first. Titan's going to go on the stack behind it and resolve first.
Joe did have a draw step here.
what am I missing with this saga that's still in play with no chapter counters on it?
This is on upkeep still. So he's firing this off right after. No, this is at the beginning of main phase.
Yes.
Only one of them has
the
resolved.
Saga trigger is on the
Gotcha.
stack, I think.
There's a
so
ring.
It looks like he drew the ring for turn, so Grief is going to take care of that, and now the Titan trigger is going to resolve. So,
No,
is Urza Saga Sacrifice a state-based effect?
Yes.
Okay, so if this is on the stack, then the Saga should be in the graveyard, I believe.
The Saga ability, the Saga search ability hasn't happened.
So
yet.
it's not in the graveyard
Correct.
until after it's resolved.
There you go.
Chapter 3.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
This is sort of an interesting thing that was questioned about sagas. Like, when do they go to the graveyard? And it's after their third chapter ability finishes.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so the resolution of the third chapter ability is to put it into
The third chapter hasn't even gone on there yet. He responded to him making the
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
taking
so
the,
weird.
So taking the counters off is the confusing.
Yeah.
Should have still had the counters on it.
Yeah.
All right. So
It should still have
that's-
2 counters on it.
That's going to pick up a Amulet of Vigor.
It's a pretty heads-up play to use it before the Titan.
I
Lands
think
get 2 amulets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too, because also it max valued that Grief.
Yeah.
Because he got to see what he drew for turn before he
Yep.
had a chance to actually use the card.
Yeah.
made him invest the mana into the Urza Saga.
Yep. So he is going to pick up a Civic Growth Chamber.
Yeah, and you reminded him of his
Float 4 mana and then get a Teleria West, which is going to transmute for a Summoner's Pact. So this is the line that I was talking about.
which he can play because it's his turn.
And then
he gets that
Summoner's Pact for Dryad of the Elysian Grove. He's going to kill him with Valakut.
Holy crap. That's insane.
Well, it's not the full 21 damage that he needs, but the Dryad now is going to be able to be cast off of this Dryad of the Elysian Grove, and then when the Titan attacks, it'll get to go 2 more lands, which are both mountains, which will enter as the 5th and 6th mountain, so it will deal 6 damage, I believe.
All of that being said, Titan does not have haste.
right.
As of right now. So we will
Yes,
have
so
to
this
skip
Titan
turn
is
cycle.
summoning 6. Yes, that's true.
So he's making 4 mana,
Playing the Dryad.
playing the Dryad. He's 1 mana floating.
Okay.
He's still,
Okay, so now he will float 4 more mana, so he has 5 mana in his pool. Looks like return the Civic Growth Chamber to hand.
Okay. Oh, he's leaving it untapped. So he only has
3 mana in the
3
pool,
mana.
so he'll be able to make a construct and then just pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and make sure that he has plenty of mana up to pay for the Summoner's Pact.
Yes.
He didn't even make the construct because he can still do it at instant speed.
Yeah.
There was no point. Makes sense.
And he's not dead here. He's still at 20 life. The Curator, Grief, and Oliphant
And
represent.
it'll be a 4/4 construct. Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think this is the coolest Urza Saga deck.
Come on, man.
I think this is the coolest Urza Saga deck. There's some
hurting me.
cool Urza Saga decks, but I really like Urza Saga in this deck.
It
I
is.
think this is the deck that broke Urza Saga the hardest in Modern.
Sure.
Yeah. I love a food deck. I love a good food deck. Getting cookbook with your saga is sick.
I'm just an
But
old
yeah,
man.
you're
I
probably
like the Gen
right.
Saga decks. You know?
Yeah, Saga Min. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saga is just such a good card all on its own.
Saga feels so awkward in a 3-color deck to me.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Now you could say that the Amulet Titan deck is like technically a 4-color deck, but it's not. It's
not.
mono.
It's
It's
green.
mono green.
Yeah.
It's a mono green deck.
Yeah,
So construct token getting made here. I gotta pick up some of these unconstruct tokens.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
sweet.
I'm a big fan of the C3POs.
he remembered paying for his pack trigger.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good for you.
You don't see people show up to events
So,
where they're
players
with this deck unless
yeah.
they're very good at it.
Right.
Well,
Players just completely ignoring the companion app here. I believe Joe is at either 8 or 9. I can't quite read his life pad. I believe it says 8.
yeah, it's 8 or 9, and we have
So-
oh my god, a third amulet has
Yeah,
hit
that
the board.
saga is gonna go away. And I believe he used the saga to help pay for the Summoner's Pact. So no construct getting made here.
No.
He just has an egregious amount of mana now.
Well, card revealed. Gotta shuffle it again. Slops.
And this has to be lethal, I think.
If he gets to attack,
3 amulets of vigor and the Titan, it's gotta be lethal.
because he gets to attack before damage, he has the triggers.
Yeah, I mean, we could be sitting on an instant speed living death right now, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
It wouldn't be. I mean, it wouldn't be good for Tom.
It's a wrath.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's
well,
good for
a lot.
it's good for him.
Yeah.
Well, no, he'd get back the Azusa and the Arboreal Grazer.
I think those are significantly less bad than dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the Primeval Titan is the problem here.
Now, he did let him move to attack.
Oh.
so-
Azusa and Azusa and
Arboreal
Grazer are all
Grazer.
you want. Those are just extra land drops.
Yeah, effectively. But at the same time, like, woof. Losing. Oh, it's 2 Valakuts. He's just getting double Valakut. Is that game?
No.
Because they're mountains. He has 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, he does have 5 mountains in play now, which means that each additional land that he plays is 6 damage.
Well, Dome for 6.
Yeah. Valakut's doing the twiddle dance here.
Yeah. Well, Joe representing his board state well. He's played this deck so many times. Like, I love watching him play it because he knows exactly what he's doing and he, like, represents the mana. I think it's also a way for him to count in his head the damage that's being done and the mana that's being made. So he, like, does the flick, flick, flick. And he's like, okay, that's 2, 4, 6. Yeah, we're ignoring the life pad there. Both players at a virtual 20.
Okay, so
Making 6
the
mana.
Simic Growth Chamber makes this interesting. So he will be able to pick up one of the Valakuts and then
replay
play
it.
it again.
Yeah. He can play both. Yeah.
And then with the Titan damage there, I think that's just lethal because
Yes.
it's 6 off of the Growth Chamber,
Yep.
6 from the Titan, and then you pick up the
Any land.
pick up any land and play it again, and it's 6 more. So
In fact,
Be
he
right
probably
back.
just picks up the Growth
these
Chamber.
players are going to sideboard and shuffle up for game 2, and we will be right back.
Hey-o!
All right. Yeah,
Early.
they're commenting on how they never use the companion app. So
Typical Magic players.
Tom has opted to sideboard out 2 copies of Force of Negation, 3 copies of Curator Mysteries, 2 copies of Grief, 2 copies of Fury, and 1 copy of Grief.
Interesting.
So heavy sideboarding here. He brought in 3 copies of Subtlety.
Okay.
Excellent answer to
Titan.
Primeval Titan.
Yeah.
3 copies of Force of Vigor and 2 copies of Ingot Chewer as answers to Amulet.
Yeah, I love that.
Also, Force of Vigor can kill Urza Sagas.
Which I love.
Yeah. Force of Vigor might be the best sideboard card in Modern right now.
I think
We
so.
were talking about that, yeah.
It's insane how many like
Yeah.
artifacts and enchantments that
Must answer.
that you just have to answer,
Yeah.
otherwise you can't win the game.
And
I
it's a
think
2 for 2.
living in sideboard plan is so cool in that like it has these very finite specific cards that it's trying to deal with. Chalice of the Void. Is the big one in my mind, and there's so many unique answers that it has to it, like Ingot Chewer for example. It's like this is the perfect day for that. There was a while where in Vintage where the decks were playing like Trigon Predator and Ingot Chewer, just because they were cheap ways to kill an artifact, do it over and over and over and over again. Like who knew that some random uncommon or common from Lorwyn Draft was going to make this Eternal format great, but Ingot Chewer pulling weight.
Yeah.
Force of Vigor, yeah, I agree. Probably one of the best sideboard cards in Modern right now. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, Force of Negation, so good, best card in that cycle." I really think Force of Vigor it is. It's a 2 for 2. It's an even exchange on cards. You still get to play it for free, and sometimes you can just cast it.
Yeah, it's green decks often get up to the mana to just be able to cast it.
Sure.
And it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I definitely think they're different cards in terms of like it's funny when Force of Negation had this like immediate boom impact on the format.
Right. I think it's obvious.
Yes. But then Force of Vigor had this thing where like every time they print a card that is dealt with by Force of Vigor, it gets so much better and so much better. And Wizards of the Coast cannot help themselves. They can't help
Yeah,
themselves.
the artifact enchantment space in general has just gotten bizarre.
Yeah.
In Modern, like you got beans everywhere and rings.
Right.
And,
We watched
we
the Hardened Scales deck in round 1.
Yeah, I
And
was watching
that deck is all artifacts and enchantments. There's
Yeah.
not a card in there that's not an artifact or enchantment.
Yeah, and he just hard cast the Force.
Yeah.
And just it wasn't even like a super high value pitch or anything. It just
Players
was
have
good
already
enough.
gotten started here. It looks like a couple of fetch lands. Verdant Catacomb is going to pick up a shock land, it looks like.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a turn 1 Amulet of Vigor.
Yep. So talking about Joe's deck really quick. Flash me the outs. So he took out 2 copies of the One Ring, a Boseiju, a Cavern of Souls, a copy of Cultivator Colossus, which was one of the big payloads. And then
He took out the Cultivator Colossus.
Yes, took out the Cultivator Colossus.
It's like an infinite combo with a Karoo land, I think.
It is.
It's not actually infinite,
draw your whole
but
deck.
you basically just get to draw a bunch of cards.
And then 3 copies of Grazer.
Okay.
So here's some cool stuff he brought in. He brought in a Bajuka Bog. We
Obvious.
love Jukes. Brought in an Azusa Lost But Seeking. 2
Okay.
copies of Explore, which I think is interesting.
Uh-huh.
1 Endurance, and then 3 copies of Silence.
Okay. So let me explain the Explore to you.
Explore lane to me.
Explore and Azusa both come in when you plan on killing your opponent with Valakut. So this deck becomes more about just making value land drops than it does about killing them with a Primeval Titan in one shot.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you would call it like the tempo mode, but it's definitely the grindier mode of the Amulet deck.
Yeah, I'm going to call this the Bertoncini sideboard plan. 2 explores.
2 explores.
2 explores.
You still don't have that many lands.
5 lands on turn 2, bud.
Famous savage cheater Alex Bertoncini. Joe, Urza Saga, pass over to Tom.
Have you heard the Bertoncini rap album? Where he raps about cheating in Magic the Gathering?
Is that an actual thing?
This is a true thing.
I don't think... Is it a whole album or just one song?
I think it might just be one.
Yeah, I think it's just one song.
What a giant...
Patrick Chapin did the full album.
Yeah, he has a whole album.
But Patrick Chapin is a artist. the dude, like, it breaks my heart that he has never won a Worlds or like, he's won big titles before, multiple Pro Tour champion.
Got close.
But he has played in not 1, not 2, but 3 Worlds finals and not been able to get there at any of them.
Yeah, the Jim Kelly of the Magic.
Yeah, definitely.
Right to the edge.
My
can't
favorite
cross
writer
the
when I
line.
was getting into Magic was always Chapin.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
art
What is that book that he wrote?
It's the Deck Builder or something.
Yeah. I have a copy of that on my bookshelf.
gosh. I need to get that now. I've never heard of this book before.
It's great.
Like, is it good?
Yeah, it is an excellent blend of magic theory and humor.
Now we've got a...
A Shardless Agent is
are we silencing?
gonna get cast here.
We're
It says
silencing.
Silence. I love it.
Ugh. Look at the...
How many copies of Silence did he
3
bring in?
copies of
3
Silence.
copies of Silence? Yeah, I love it.
So now it's going to cascade.
Feel free to cascade, friend.
You are going to cascade. And then... Unfortunately, this is just a time thing, right? The whether or not you cast the card,
what happens to the Living End?
it just goes on the bottom.
It goes
He's
on
going
the
to
bottom.
choose to not cast it, and all of the cards not cast. Wait, yeah. So he's going to ask a judge now. What's going to happen?
They have to call a judge to clarify, which is totally reasonable.
Yeah. So the way
I
that
also wasn't sure.
If you read how Cascade works, it says you may cast that card, then shuffle all cards not cast onto the bottom of your deck.
So he doesn't have the option to cast it, so the only choice he can make is I will not cast this, and then all of them get shuffled on the bottom.
Correct.
Interesting.
So yeah, we're just explaining that now. I only know this interaction because I've seen it done in Canlander before.
Sure.
We're like, can't.
Head Judge Josh Schroeder at the table making the call. We'll get this
Still
cleared
public
up
info.
in just a second.
That sort of the cool thing about Cascade, if you're a good player, aka not me, is that you get to look at your opponent, like a good chunk of your opponent's deck. Mm-hmm. And now it just goes on the bottom.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw several of the sideboard cards there, so he did just pick up all that information.
Yep.
We saw the Force of Vigor,
Most
we saw the
importantly,
subtlety.
Yeah. I think the Force is sort of
A no-brainer.
everybody's
De
bringing up
facto.
the Force.
Yeah, if you have important artifacts and or enchantments.
And
He
you're-
also
and
saw
you're
Ingot Chewer.
Playing against a green deck. Oh, yeah, he did see the Ingot Chewer, too.
Yeah. Notable that he knows that Ingot Chewer and that force is not in his hand. He can kind of prepare for it, knowing that, like, I don't know how much stock you put in that of like it's not there, it's not in the hand. You know where it is.
I don't think Joe's ever really in a position where he can play around Force.
No.
Because even this Dryad, right, is an enchantment creature.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Is it really?
So Slayer Stronghold, then in a Dryad of the Elysian Grove, additional land drop. It'll be is that a Teleria West?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the difference of playing to win versus playing to not lose. Don't hold your stuff in hand.
Oh, back over on
It may change
Tom's turn.
seeing the subtlety may change what he does with future silences, though.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Sure.
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Having that information definitely valuable. We're
Misty
seeing a lot of basics.
Rainforest going to find a basic. That's going to cycle an Oliphant.
That's a lot of lands for Tom.
Well, this signals to me that he has another way to cascade.
Okay.
Just putting another creature in the graveyard so that when this
And Joe is effectively
Living
tapped
End
out.
resolves. Yeah, perhaps the sorcery speed Living End is better in this matchup.
Yeah. He has a couple of very good targets in the graveyard now. And Joe has zeros of targets. Or zeros of creatures.
Well, and you think, maybe if Joe's going to have a big turn, he's waiting for the second amulet. Maybe now's the time you need to go.
Yep. Yeah, I'll try to clear as much of that out as possible. I don't know. I don't know the contents of Joe's hand, but you have to be thinking that Tom is cognizant of this dryad and it representing a bunch of damage from Valakuts.
Yeah. So here we go.
So there's no white mana. Well,
So
I
wait,
guess
is
there's
the-
Dryad, so there's white mana.
Yeah.
Is this the same turn that the silence was cast, or is this the next turn? This is the next turn.
This is the next turn,
Okay.
yes.
So we're seeing a lot of cards.
I think we may.
He does have Monstrous Carabid in his deck.
He does.
Yeah, he has
he told me-
16 red
I
cards.
think we may be
Yeah.
actually on Joe's end step right now, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And here
Well, it
is
shouldn't
the
be because
endurance.
oh, the endurance.
Yeah. Shows
He
up.
was too. The graveyard player was too shocked to speak.
It's there right when you need it.
Boy, isn't it always?
So this Cascade Trigger is going to finish resolving, so those cards will go to the bottom, and then this Endurance Trigger is going to resolve.
And the endurance is going to come back.
Tom's, yes, that is how this works.
Oh, that's amazing. Is he going to shuffle his own graveyard?
Azusa is going to... Azusa is going to
He
go
is.
away and get replaced by
Yeah.
an Endurance.
Well, you don't want that. You don't want that. That living end to go back into Tom's deck.
I mean, maybe not. As long as there's one in there, it never really.
I
matters,
suppose. Yeah, it's not.
And he knows there's one pretty deep on the. Oh no, the Oliphant is shuffle.
Yeah.
All right. Saga
Wow.
Trigger. We're going to make a construct.
Joe playing expertly around this.
Joe is going to probably pick up another copy of Amulet of Vigor. It is an
Shocking.
Amulet of Vigor.
Oh my god. Jeremiah, did you see that coming?
Well, yeah, I think I probably did.
Are there any other targets in the deck?
Yeah, he has Haywire Might.
Oh,
he has Expedition Map.
Maps now being able to explore though.
Joe is in a pretty good spot here, but he is not moving it probably at the speed he would like to be right now.
No.
He's
No,
giving-
I
he's
don't
giving
think
Tom a
so.
lot of time.
He also doesn't have much mana in play.
Right.
Tom's hand. What does he have? Like 4 cards? 3 cards?
I am not sure how
He
many
has
Tom's
expended a
cards
decent
remain.
amount of cards. And just so many lands.
We knew about this land, right? From the
Yeah.
Oliphant.
It's just
The thing about it is Joe hasn't actually expended that many cards because all of those cycling
Yes.
creatures replace themselves.
Yeah.
So Living In is typically able to keep a pretty stocked hand.
or Tom. Yeah, not Joe. But this is still, I mean, a 2-turn clock now. This is going to take him to 3.
Yep.
Tom needs to do something probably now.
It'll take him to 4 actually. There's a 3/3 construct.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's 6 damage. So we're just gonna,
Here's 4 mana.
we're gonna
Channeling an Otawara, that'll take care of the construct token.
Take 3.
Tom is going to take 3, go down to 7.
That was a lot of lands in hand.
Joe has a Expedition Map, going to immediately cash in the Expedition Map.
What are we getting? Teleria West?
No,
just
he's grinding.
Yeah.
He's grinding game 2.
Urza Saga just
Gotta be an
allowing
Urza
you to-
Saga.
That notably though, that Ottawa bought a lot of time.
It did.
Yeah. Because that token was about to get just mass, and we're scooping it up now.
Not enough time.
Looks like we are done. That is going to be game 2 and the match.
Wow.
Going to Joe. That's okay, though, because this is a team event, and just because Tom didn't win his game doesn't mean his team can't win the round. There is still Pioneer and Legacy happening just on the other side of these players.
Is there?
That's it for round 3.
Round 3.
We'll be back in just a little bit with more Modern in round 4.
Bag it up.